An emotional vigil in Toronto, just steps away from where 10 people were killed in that horrific van attack. Tonight, we don't yet know who all the victims are, but we are learning some of their names and their stories. We'll share some of those with you over the next hour. We're also getting a better picture of the man accused of causing all of this harm. We'll tell you what we know, what we don't yet know, and what's likely coming next.
Also tonight, what we know about the police officer some are calling a hero.
And why officials aren't calling this attack terrorism. This is The National.
We are here in North Toronto where 10 lives were lost and 14 other people were injured, and so many lives have been changed forever. Yesterday's scenes of chaos and carnage, though, have been transformed in some cases to scenes of resilience, but also scenes of grief. We'll bring you more of that in just a moment, particularly from what's been happening at the vigil. But first, let's tell you what the latest developments have been. Earlier today, the suspected driver, Alex Manassian, appeared in court, charged with 10 counts of first-degree murder and 13 counts of attempted murder, with one more charge expected soon. Investigators say that his precise motive remains unclear, but police and Facebook have confirmed the reports that we gave you last night, that a cryptic message had appeared on his Facebook profile before the attack. The coroner is not officially identifying any victims yet, but police said they were mainly women. We're starting to hear from their family and friends. And a vigil for the victims was held here tonight. Hundreds of people coming through to pay their respects to those who died and also those who are still in hospital.
Praise God, praise God.
Our hearts go out to all the people who have perished and their relatives and friends.
I was just right here Saturday. It could have been me, so it meant a lot for me to be here tonight.
I told my son that in any weather situation, we are going to be there tonight.
We mourn with everyone who's been affected by this, the families, the friends.
24 people were killed or injured in the attack. That is actually one less than police originally thought. And we are starting to hear more about those victims, about the lives that were lost, and also the people who are still fighting in hospital. David Common has the latest on that angle of the story.
The job of identifying the dead and injured is extraordinarily challenging. Young and old, Canadians and foreign visitors. But even without certainty, families have been told to prepare for terrible news.
When I left the gym, I saw all the bodies. Sorry, I saw the body on the road.
Most of those killed were carrying identification. But the coroner says that isn't enough, especially when the damage to bodies is so extensive.
Frankly, it takes time to get records, and it takes time to meet families, and so that's not a resource issue. That's really, you need to ensure that you're talking to the right person. You take the time to do that.
What is known? 2 South Korean citizens are among the dead, students studying in Canada. So too is a Jordanian man here to visit his son, Munir Habib Abdul Al-Najjar. 80-year-old Dorothy Sewell was on the street, perhaps enjoying the lovely weather in her retirement. Grandson Elwood Delaney is now mourning her loss.
It wasn't an accident, right? It would be easier to deal with if it was, nature caused or, a little accident, but to go out this way.
This woman's best friend is among the victims. Anne-Marie D'Amico was just outside her office when the young woman and volunteer was struck down and killed. In a statement, her family says it comforts us knowing that the world has had a chance to know her and that her message in life will survive her death. Altruism rather than anger and hatred.
I went to school with her, and her and I were very actively engaged together in many different student groups. She was a star amongst many different people, and she really was, in so many different ways, a beautiful human being.
Others are grievously injured. Ryerson instructor Amir Kumarsi is in intensive care. Haider Firas was Kumarsi's student, but the two have remained close in the years since.
Amazing man, really amazing man. And last contact I had with him was 4 days ago.
Just 4 days?
4 days ago, yeah.
Among the injured are co-workers of the dead, elderly residents and others. As they arrived at trauma centers nearly all at once, it was controlled chaos.
It was, unimaginable. I've been here for 14 years. I've seen a lot, but it was definitely, very traumatic. But at the same time, as a nurse, we're trained to do this, and I think we're just very focused.
And David, there is a remarkable story of a man who had a very close call.
Certainly, but he's also very lucky. Morgan McDougall is his name, and he felt something. He heard something, turned around, and got his body turned around just in time to see the van, got out of the way partly, but was struck at 50 kilometers an hour, thrown unconscious, a big gash across his head, picked up by paramedics, taken off to hospital. But not only has he survived, but compared to so many others, he is lightly wounded. He's been released from hospital, but Ian, tonight he is back there because some of his friends were not so lucky.
And so let's talk about the people who remain in hospital.
Obviously, their conditions are private. They should be, but we do know from Sunnybrook, one of the nearest trauma centers to here, that took about half of the patients, that all of those who are still there are in intensive care, Ian.
All right, David, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Even before the vigil here was set up, this crash site had become a gathering place for so many in the community. And behind me, you can see notes and signs and flowers from people who are really trying to come to grips with what's happened in this community.
I saw the carnage, I saw bodies on the streets, and I felt like somebody has to do something.
Konstantin Gulich was moved to start this memorial to honor the victims and support the community.
People who are just walking by, but everybody needs a moment to heal. Everybody needs a canvas to express themselves.
All day, people stop by to leave messages of love and grief.
This road, I walk every day, really every day we are just doing, but it's, but I just feel so terrible.
This is my road every day to walk, and at time like 1 o'clock, I walk every day from Finch and Finch to Young and Shepherd. Yesterday, I decided to go to the gym instead.
People are in pain today. Like, you're going on the subway knowing that even though quietly we're not talking to each other, people are thinking about, what happened.
It's become a gathering place for community leaders, members of a nearby mosque coming to pray.
Being a national community, it was important that we could be here with our message, which is the motto of our community, love for all and hatred for none.
And politicians, Premier Kathleen Wynne side by side with Mayor John Tory, laying flowers.
It's very sobering and very somber.
This place will forever be a scar on the city of Toronto, but one of the things about all scars is that they're part of the healing process.
And the Premier saw firsthand how this attack has left some in the community shaken. As Wynne left, she met a student from Seneca College where the suspect studied.
Right now, the security is heightened, so you'll be okay. Is there somebody who can go with you?
Wynne tried to comfort her, suggesting she contact the school, which is offering counseling. At the heart of the investigation tonight, the accused. Alec Manassian said very little in court today. And once again this evening, our senior investigative reporter, Diana Swain, is looking into Manassian's life, trying to find answers about the suspect.
It's been a day of trying to read his face. Is there something there from high school or more recently that suggested what Alec Manassian was going to do? His expression betrayed nothing today as he appeared in court. Wearing a white jumpsuit, hands cuffed behind his back, he answered the judge's brief questions in a clear, steady voice. The agonized expression was worn by a man seen weeping in the front row, believed to be Manassian's father.
We're crying in court, sir. Can you at least tell us what you're feeling right now, please?
A picture is emerging now of Manassian's last several months. He joined the Canadian Forces last fall at this base in Saint-Jean-sur-Richelieu, Quebec, but quit basic training after only 16 days. A senior Canadian Forces official told CBC News Manassian was an average to below average recruit. He had problems with dress, deportment, and group interactions in a military setting. He went back to Seneca College in Toronto to finish his computer studies. A fellow student who didn't want to be named described Manassian as smart, the pillar of the group, but also as so awkward. Just last Thursday, when Manassian finished his courses, he posted this message to some classmates on a chat group. Finally finished college. F you all and good riddance. And just yesterday, the Facebook message CBC News reported on last night. Facebook has confirmed it came from his profile page and they've shut it down.
The accused is alleged to have posted a cryptic message on Facebook minutes before he began driving the rented van.
That post begins with what may be a reference to his failed Army experience. Private recruit Manassian infantry. And then the incel rebellion has already begun. All hail the Supreme Gentleman, Elliot Rodger.
I don't know why you girls aren't attracted to me, but I will punish you all for it.
Rodger killed 6 people in a rampage in California 4 years ago, posting this ranting video just before. He was angry about being rebuffed by women, making him a so-called incel or involuntary celibate. Maxime Fissette works for a center that tracks websites with extreme and violent views, including incel sites.
They have this huge resentment towards society and women, mostly women, because they feel that women are rejecting them, even though they see themselves as nice guys. And that's a feeling of injustice that can fuel radicalization.
Is that what prompted Manassian to do what he did?
It's something that we'll be looking into.
And Diana joins us now. We have to assume, Diana, investigators will be looking at these so-called incel sites. What are they going to find there?
Well, unfortunately, Ian, they will find there already that there are some people celebrating Manassian. Some we've seen have already changed their profile picture on those sites to his photo. So it's just another grotesque development in what's already been a horrible story, Ian.
All right, Diana, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So while police investigate the motive, officers have also been gathering evidence along a very large crime scene. More than 10 major city blocks. This would have been the van's path as it plowed through Yonge Street. Police say it was 7 minutes after the first call came in that the suspect was placed under arrest. The big, busy stretch of road reopening this evening. As the CBC's Renee Filipponi tells us, a crime scene of this size presents its own challenges for the investigation.
It's an enormous scene. A 2-kilometer span of Yonge Street, where 24 people were hit. Today, it was about doing a detailed search to collect every piece of evidence from the scene where each person was struck. Toronto Police Chief Mark Saunders welcomed the extra help that was brought in to analyze the scene.
We had to acquire the resources of specialized traffic reconstruction resources from other jurisdictions. I can tell you the GTA collectively called to pitch in.
When you look at the police tape, you know, so many intersections away, these are not small blocks, they're large city blocks.
This retired Winnipeg police officer spent a decade doing crash investigations.
A lot of this information is very short-lived. It doesn't stay there forever, and if you don't document it immediately or as soon as possible, it's gone forever.
Damian Turner says police will be trying to map out the exact path the driver took. In order to prove first-degree murder, they have to provide evidence to show the accused planned to hit people.
I would imagine they're looking for information or looking for evidence that would help show that premeditated action on behalf of the driver, that maybe he swerved towards a pedestrian as opposed to just traveling straight down the road blindly hitting whatever was there.
And despite a lot of talk about possible motive, Police won't confirm anything at this point.
All doors are open. Everything will be explored. There's a lot more video evidence that has to come in. There are a lot more witnesses.
By early evening, the investigation here is now wrapping up. The yellow police tape is coming down, and the victims' bodies that laid on the sidewalk are now gone. But police say once they leave here, they still have weeks of work ahead. Renee Filipponi, CBC News, Toronto.
And part of that work will be speaking to the police officer who continues to get so much praise. Constable Ken Lamb confronted and arrested the suspect. It must have been a nerve-shattering moment. It could have ended in bloodshed, but of course it did not. Joanna Rimiliotis now on how that officer kept his cool.
It must have seemed like an eternity, or a flash, a takedown that lasted less than a minute by an officer hailed a hero. The horrific attack had already begun a few blocks away. Constable Ken Lamb was alone on routine traffic duty when he got the call, and he was the only one there, his siren blaring, when the van crashed to a stop. What unfolded is extraordinary. Lamb's gun is drawn, pointing at the van. He doesn't know what to expect. The driver points what appears to be a gun and yells something, but you can't hear it over the siren. In what experts call a strategic move, Lamb calmly reaches into his vehicle to turn it off.
If he thought there would have been a threat to his life, potentially, he wouldn't have taken his eyes off the suspect. He turns off the siren, both so the suspect can hear him, but also to try to de-escalate the situation, because inherently the siren is going to make that suspect nervous.
But it doesn't calm him. The driver steps closer. He wants the officer to shoot. Lamb doesn't fire.
He's not only provoking him and doing that, but he's also saying to the officer, shoot me, shoot me.
Mike McCormick is head of the Toronto Police Union.
If at any point that he thought there was an escalation in the person's behavior and that there was a threat, he had the entire justification to use his weapon.
We can't tell from this angle, but Lamb knows that's not a gun. He doesn't shoot but steps back as the suspect comes closer. Then, sensing an opening, moves forward. The power dynamic suddenly shifts. The suspect collapses to his knees. Suddenly, it's over.
When I was talking to him yesterday, he was saying, Mike, I'm just a cop. This is what we do. Like, what's the big deal?
He's certainly humble, and officers are trained to de-escalate. But still.
It is a focal point of our training piece. Having said that, that particular situation yesterday, the way in which it went down was nothing short of remarkable.
Remarkable because training can only go so far. Scott Giovannetti is a former police instructor.
He used the least amount of force possible to end the incident, and I agree with the characterization that he was a hero.
As for Lamb, he is overwhelmed and taking some time off. As a key witness, he won't be speaking publicly for a while, but will no doubt always be known as the cop who didn't shoot. Joanna Rimiliotis, CBC News, Toronto.
And a final point on this, Rosie, the fact that Constable Lamb did manage to arrest this suspect alive leaves open the possibility, at least, that the suspect will talk to police and answer that troubling question, what was on his mind.
And he just impressed the heck out of us, so he's going to have to live with that, too. Ian, across the country, we've been seeing tributes pour in. Let's start here in Ottawa. The Prime Minister was asked about the investigation this morning. Justin Trudeau says that the attack does not represent a threat to Canada's national security, and he had this message for Canadians.
We cannot, as Canadians, choose to live in fear every single day as we go about our daily business. We need to focus on doing what we can and we must to keep Canadians safe while we stay true to the freedoms and values that we all as Canadians hold dear.
You've likely heard similar words before from other leaders following similar attacks. They are attacks against what's known as soft targets, everyday places where people go about their everyday lives. The difficult job of protecting those spaces was on the agenda at the meeting of G7 security ministers in Toronto today. Katie Simpson has more now on the target.
It didn't take long for the new normal to arrive. Concrete barriers are in place for now around Toronto's Union Station. It is one of the few ways to protect busy public spaces, which was discussed today by G7 national security ministers.
I thank our American friends and all of you around the table for your offers of support.
Ralph Goodale was hosting his counterparts for meetings in Toronto when the attack happened. CBC News has learned shortly after 1:30 p.m. on Monday, the heads of the RCMP, CSIS, Canadian Forces, and the Privy Council office were told to look for any files they may have on the suspect, or what's called a full spectrum review. The information was used to see if Alec Manassian had any ties to terror groups or if this could be a part of a larger plot. The agencies quickly compared notes to realize he was not known to authorities and was not on any watch list. But today, Goodale suggested he may now be concerned about groups like Incel.
They're obviously motivated by views and perverted perspectives that put these folks in an odd category.
Toronto police remain the lead investigators, which means the next big responsibility for the government is trying to reassure Canadians they are safe to go about their daily lives. The message is critical, since there is little officials can do to protect against attacks in public spaces.
You cannot, in life, protect people against everything. Our job is to try to do the best we can.
Police will decide if and when these barricades here at Union Station can be taken down. It, too, is part of the overall campaign to make people feel safer in public spaces. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Toronto.
The crash yesterday certainly invoked terror on the street in Toronto, but officials have been reluctant to describe it as terrorism. So why are some attacks labeled terror and others are not?
What took place yesterday is clearly linked to a terrorist ideology.
In 2014, there was no question. Martin Couture-Rouleau turned his car into a weapon and killed a soldier in Saint-Jean-sur-Richelieu. It was called an act of terror by a radicalized lone wolf inspired by ISIS. Not so for yesterday. A devastating crime, but no official or authority has labeled it terrorism. Part of the reason from the public safety minister.
As far as the information would tell us to this point, there is no national security connection.
In Canada, the definition of terrorism is clearly laid out in the Criminal Code as an act undertaken in whole or in part for a political, religious, or ideological purpose, objective, or cause that is intended to intimidate the public.
And the key reason for defining an act as being one of terrorism or not has to do with motivation.
In the failed Edmonton U-Haul attack last year and in the Quebec City mosque attack that killed 6 people, politicians labeled both attackers terrorists, yet no terrorism charge was laid.
Usually they're not laid because of this element of motivation. I mean, you really have to hit a pretty high standard in court to be able to prove that the person's actions were rooted in this ideological motivation.
And sometimes that word, terrorism, gets in the way. Take the Moncton shootings. Justin Bourque shot and killed 3 RCMP officers. Officials never called it terrorism, even though police did consider laying that charge.
It's easier just to proceed with the fact that you have an obvious murder case and that the penalty for murder is as severe as the penalty for terrorism, so it really doesn't make much difference.
Still, Justin Bourque is now one of the Canadians who has received the longest sentence in Canadian history, 75 years with no parole.
Our special coverage from Toronto continues tonight. This is a big city made up of small neighborhoods, and this one, north of downtown, is still reeling. I spent the day talking to people here about their determination in the face of tragedy.
And Ian, the Premier, also at that memorial today and later tonight, and I spoke to her earlier about the moments after she first heard about the attack and what could be done now to prevent this from happening again.
And another story we are following tonight, a CBC exclusive. Ryan Strashnitsky survived the Humboldt bus crash. Now he's telling his story.
My teammates were sitting in front of me like bloody and whatnot, so my initial reaction was to get up and help, but I couldn't move, so It was pretty tough. So I just like screamed for help, pretty much.
Tonight we're here in North York on Yonge Street, usually crowded with cars, one of the busiest streets in the city. But tonight it's the sidewalks that are crowded with pedestrians who have come here to pay their respects to the victims. North York is about 30 minutes north of downtown Toronto, and it is one of the most diverse neighborhoods in the country. I spent the day here as the community tried to make sense of what happened yesterday. A small example of a close community, the simple gesture of a local shop offering free flowers, trying to provide some measure of comfort, and they gave away a lot. The co-owner reluctantly speaking on camera about why. So you decided to give away flowers today, why?
Yeah, just a little things we can help. Like what we can do is just, we have flowers, so that's all.
Yeah. How are people doing today?
Well, everybody is grieving different ways.
Vanita Hoyt works down the street. She and her co-workers still shaken by what they saw. How do you think the community is today?
Well, from who we have over there, it seems everybody came together.
At the memorial?
Yes.
And what about at your workplace? All the people who saw yesterday what happened, how are they doing?
They're doing okay. We had grief counsel come in today and talk to us, so some of us were able to talk to them and some weren't able, so.
Ask people here to define this neighborhood and they'll say it's multi-ethnic, friendly, safe. But it's that last part that feels in doubt for some today. Gina Chang, like so many people, saw the carnage outside her workplace. First two things you talk about is walking and safety.
Yeah.
And now I'm sure some people feel, they wonder if that's still the case.
No, nobody, like every person that I spoke to since yesterday, everyone just said to me, how could this happen here? Coming to work today, I still felt a little like maybe there could be another possibility of, I don't know, similar attack? I don't know.
Every day, walk routine.
Amit Bogle says he noticed his neighbors are different today.
I feel that people's faces are a bit frozen. They don't know how to process it. I felt that with some of my neighbors. I felt a bit of coldness, even in the elevators. I take the elevators every day in my condo building, so I felt that. But I tried extra hard to be, good to them, smile at them, because a smile can change a person's perspective. It's just a matter of one smile.
After that thing happened, I thought every people are combined together, make more warm. Yeah, that's all.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
There's a lot of worry here, but there's also a lot of optimism, and there are people who are seeking comfort. Among the people who came by this neighborhood, Rosie, earlier today, the Premier, Kathleen Wynne.
That's right, Anne. As we showed you earlier, she was there with Mayor John Tory, and they both wrote messages of condolence to the victims' families. They laid bouquets of flowers, and then they read some of the words left by others on cardboard and Post-its taped to Olive Square. And Premier Kathleen Wynne joins us tonight from Toronto. Premier, you were at the memorial today. You were talking to lots of people down there. What has struck you about the reaction, not only from the people in that neighborhood, but from the city at large?
Well, it was a very somber place, Rosemary, as you can imagine. There were people from the community who had written messages in a whole range of languages that reflect the community in that area, but also that reflect the city. And there was a theme of love that went through all of the messages, and it was one that particularly stood out, and it said, I don't know you, but I love you. And so I think that people are looking for a way in this city to express their love, express their concern and their sympathy for everyone who has been a victim or a family or friend of this horrific tragedy.
When you first got that call yesterday, and I imagine it's the call you least want to get as Premier, what did you immediately think was happening? Were you concerned that it was an act of terrorism?
I think that crosses your mind. You know, it's one of the questions that comes up. I wanted to know that our first responders had all the support that they needed. I wanted to make sure that the provincial first responders were working closely with the federal and the municipal police services. The Toronto Police Service has done a wonderful job. They have led the way on this, but we've been working very closely with them, and I wanted to make sure that they had everything that they needed, and that you know, we were sure that if there was going to be a second event, that we were prepared for that. That's what was going through my mind immediately.
There are now suggestions between what we know about the suspect and his attachment to a Facebook group where he seemed to express some feelings, some hateful feelings towards women and some men. And we also know that some of the victims now there are more women than men. Do you read anything into that? Are police telling you anything about that and whether that speaks to motive?
I think it's too early, Rosemary, to speculate on any of that. The investigation is ongoing. I think that we have to let the experts do their work.
What you can do, though, as the Premier, is start to think about preventative measures that can be put in place for things like this to not happen again. Of course, this is one of these attacks on soft targets with a van that no one suspects will be a weapon. What are you thinking about already in terms of trying to prevent things like this from happening again?
Yes, you're absolutely right. And in fact, our Cabinet Committee on Emergency Management met this afternoon, and this was one of the topics. You know, are we now looking at what measures could be put in place? And again, it's early days, but we are absolutely looking at what can we do. And I think, Rosemary, this is a question that is being asked in many jurisdictions. When you're dealing with a random act of this kind, you know, to what degree is it random? To what degree is the place random? And how, you know, what are the predictive factors that can be put in place? And then what do we do about that? What we do know is we don't want to change our cities in this province to be places where people don't feel safe to walk. You know, we want to make it clear to each other that we live in a safe place, that we are resilient communities, and that we will get through this. But we are looking at what more could we do to prevent and to keep people safe.
Okay, Premier, thanks for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
We have more ahead from the memorial in Toronto. In the face of such an ugly attack, we'll look at how people here are determined to focus on what makes their city beautiful.
But first, we will have a different story of survival. Ryan Strashnitsky was in the Humboldt bus crash. Tonight, he's speaking exclusively with our Susan Ormiston about his will to return to the ice.
I have to get into a wheelchair today, you know, I'm gonna sit that longer than I did yesterday, or if I have to sit up on the edge of the bed and practice, you know, keep my balance, I'm gonna do it longer each day and try and do more things.
More than 2 weeks after that deadly bus crash in Saskatchewan, there is some progress. 2 Humboldt Broncos players in hospital are no longer in critical condition. There are still 6 players recovering in a Saskatoon hospital, and the survivors have a long way to go. But just days after the tragedy, you might remember a remarkable moment of courage from one of them, Ryan Strashnitsky. When doctors told him he was paralyzed, he immediately reassured his parents he's getting back onto the ice. He's going to learn to play sledge hockey and win gold, no less, at the Paralympics. A tough spirit, to be sure. But as he told our Susan Ormiston in an exclusive interview, it's what his friends would have wanted.
Hi, Ryan. Hey. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Finally. Yeah. I've been talking to your mom for 2 weeks almost,
really?
And it is such a relief to see you.
Thank you.
Ryan Strashnitsky faces the toughest challenge of his life, learning to live with paralysis.
You must have gone through some incredibly intense emotion.
Yeah.
Last 2 weeks. Can you tell me about that?
I've had my moments, like, I don't think the whole incident actually hit me until a couple days after, and you know, thinking about it, just seeing my teammates that were alive, and it was good to see them.
Ryan was a defenseman for the Broncos, a rookie recruited from a team in Leduc, Alberta. On April 6, when the team bus and a semi-trailer hit, he was catapulted out. Do you remember what happened?
Yeah, I was on the bus and I was on my phone texting my girlfriend, and the bus driver said, "Whoa," and kind of looked, and there's a semi-truck that pulled out in front of us, and the initial collision, I blacked out, and I woke up, I don't know how long later, my back was up against the semi, I was sitting up, and I just remember some of the pain and staring at the bus, and it was cut in half, and my teammates were sitting in front of me like bloodied and whatnot, so my initial reaction was to get up and help, but I couldn't move, so it was pretty tough.
He was rushed to a Saskatoon hospital. The next day, he went into surgery, his spinal cord severely damaged, amongst other injuries.
Well, I have a fractured clavicle, left clavicle and scapula. My T3 has been incomplete fracture. My ribs on both sides are fractured as well, and I had a punctured left lung and internal bleeding in the head. But you know, I've just been getting better and better.
And what about your mobility in the future?
Mobility, just practice getting in a chair, and they'll teach me how to live my life living in a chair and whatnot, and getting the upper body strength to do everyday things like change your clothes and get in your wheelchair and, you know, feed yourself and whatnot.
What have been some of the most difficult moments for you?
Like not being able to, sorry.
It's okay. If it's too tough, don't worry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just not being able to go to the funerals.
Right. You were too sick to go. Yeah. Yeah. Will you be able to remember them in a different way in the future?
Yeah, I'm doing this all for them, so that's how I remember them, so yeah, they're always there.
Mm-hmm. Your coach was close to you. Coach Darcy Hogan was a mentor. He was killed in the crash. What do you think Darcy, the coach, would tell you now if you could?
Just be tough, keep pushing through. You know, you're given a second chance, so take advantage of it.
Mm-hmm. And how do you do that?
Like push through every day, keep positive. You know, fighting through it. Just keeping that mindset of, you know, you can do this. Like people are saying, you know, he'll never walk again, but just push it through it.
Dad Tom and Mom Michelle are determined to keep Ryan on track and moving forward. At his side over the last 2 weeks constantly, managing their 3 other children along with the full days at the hospital. They credit him with the strong spirit in spite of the trauma.
It was about 3 days in the ICU, and he looked at me. Tom was out of the room. He looked at me and he said, "Am I okay now, Mom? Am I not going to die in my sleep?" And that just about killed me, because I had no idea he was even thinking that.
So how do you deal with it now? What's the challenge for you, and how do you support your son?
Let's just keep him positive and just say nothing's set in stone, and if we find a little door, we'll go through it, and we'll do it as a family, and you got all this support from around the world. I said, let's do it. And then he's okay, so.
You say you like a challenge.
Yeah.
Where do you set your goals now?
I just set my goals, like if I have to get into a wheelchair today, you know, I'm gonna sit that longer than I did yesterday, or if I have to sit up on the edge of the bed and practice, you know, keep my balance, I'm gonna do it longer each day and try and do more things. So just not huge things, just little things, and you know, build up towards my final days here.
The many hospital visits have been a big boost, and so has the overwhelming support from Canadians. And then there were a few uniquely hockey moments.
I was having a nap and someone nudged me and I woke up and Stanley Cup was right in front of me, so. But I was always told you have to earn the Stanley Cup, so I didn't touch it, so.
Still, a fiercely motivated athlete, Ryan is taking on this next phase of training with a huge dose of courage.
I just wanted to get back on the ice, and whether it's sledge hockey or possibly like coaching or scouting, I just love being on the ice. So any way I can do that would be awesome.
Susan Ormiston, CBC News, Calgary.
And Ian, a long road ahead, but he seems up to the challenge. You know, Ryan's family says they're going to redesign their house to help him with his recovery, and families like theirs will get a little extra help this Friday with the proceeds from a concert in Saskatoon featuring some of Canada's biggest stars.
Watching that interview is a reminder that it's been a couple of really difficult weeks in this country, the tragedy in Humboldt and now this attack in Toronto. Take a look at this cartoon that seems to express how we have been beset by grief and come together in that grief. This is by Michael D'Adder in Halifax. The artist posted it on Twitter this morning, and not surprisingly, it has already been shared thousands of times.
That's a striking image. And for all of our viewers on Instagram, we have shared several powerful images from the memorial on our national account. You can follow us at CBC The National. More special coverage ahead. Tonight on The National, Peruvian state media are reporting that 2 men have been detained in connection with the killing of a Canadian man. Sebastian Woodruff was found dead Saturday in a remote village in the Amazon. Authorities say he'd been accused of murdering a spiritual healer and was killed by a lynch mob in retaliation. According to police, the 2 men detained were part of that mob, but they add they don't know who was behind the spiritual healer's murder. A Liberal MP accused of sexual assault is speaking out, calling the allegations against him a case of mistaken identity. Francis Drouin said in a statement that his accuser got the wrong guy. He's accused of grabbing a woman from behind at a Halifax bar early Saturday. But Drouin says while he was at the bar, it was someone else who grabbed the woman. Police are investigating. One of the other stories we are following tonight, the White House hosting a lavish state dinner for the French president tonight. This visit is being called a test of friendship between the two countries. But as Paul Hunter explains, there's a lot more than that on the line.
Yes, the first state visit for the Trump White House had plenty of this. But then came the weird bits. The awkward, splayed-fingered arm raise. The hand-holding by the Rose Garden. In the Oval Office, Donald Trump seemed to notice a white fleck on the French president's shoulder.
In fact, I'll get that little piece of dandruff off. That little piece. We have to make him perfect. He is perfect.
And at their press conference soon after, Emmanuel Macron goes for the full-on man hug, cheek to cheek.
Thank you. Thank you. I like him a lot.
In fairness, Trump smiled. For both leaders, their relationship is in the spotlight on this trip. For Trump, it's a chance to win a needed ally in a key country. For Macron, a thumbs up from Trump grows his standing in Europe and beyond. But there are challenges, not least the Iranian deal, favored by France, trashed by Trump, including today, as Macron listens.
It's a bad deal. It's a bad structure. It's falling down. Should have never, ever been made.
Macron's view, don't kill the deal, strengthen it.
On ne déchire pas un accord pour aller vers nulle part.
I've always said we should not tear apart the deal and have nothing else, he said. And though Trump hinted maybe there's a way to tweak it, a deadline on whether he'll stick with it looms May 12th.
We're going to see what happens on the 12th. But I will say, if Iran threatens us in any way, they will pay a price like few countries have ever paid.
To keep the deal or dump it, in this visit, Macron will try to convince Trump it's worth preserving, a test of what Trump today called a wonderful friendship. Awkward moments and all. Paul Hunter, CBC News, Washington.
And as we go to break, here's a live look at the Parliament buildings in Ottawa. The flags on the Peace Tower at half-mast in sympathy for the victims of the attack in Toronto. Ian will be back in just a moment from the memorial.
As you've seen, people have been gathering tonight near the scene of yesterday's attack, paying tribute and paying respect, but they're also gathering online, sharing stories of hope and gratitude and kindness with the hashtag Toronto the Good. And that is our moment of the day.
Toronto the Good is the people that live here, that make up the city. I've had so many times in my life where complete strangers were there for me, helped me more than they know.
It's buying the guy behind me a coffee and watching it paid forward before I left the store.
It's my students asking how they can help the victims and families affected by yesterday's tragic event.
Means donating blood. We can do more than just mean well, because we can do something meaningful.
Is the 501 streetcar driver who stopped the car last night, walked up and down the aisle, and ensured that everybody on board knew that South Kingsway was going to be the last stop. He looked at us, he smiled, and he said, "I just want to make sure that nobody gets off in the wrong place."
Toronto the Good. Thank you to the person who bought my Tim's order today. You made me smile. Toronto the Good.
I have to say, where I'm standing here, there are people behind me paying respect to the vigil, but right there is Yonge Street. Traffic again for the first time in more than 24 hours, slowly returning to some sense of normal.
There were lots of free coffees. This was my favorite tweet today. I just had the person in front of me pay for my coffee at Tim Hortons. That's as Canadian as it gets. I paid for the one behind me and didn't even judge them for getting a plain untoasted bagel.
And you know, the individual moments, I mean, there's something special, but what I found striking was the sheer number of them. I mean, we reached out to a number of people to have them tell us about those individual moments of kindness that they experienced throughout the day, and so many of them replied. Some of the videos that you just saw there, so quite a moment. Thanks so much for joining us here on the program for this April 24th. Good night.
Thanks.